Welcome to episode 7 of the Passion Lab. Today, I have the opportunity to be sitting down with Jude to talk about his clothing brand, Sommet. And I'm super excited to be with you here today, Jude. Jude, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Jacob. I'm super grateful to be here. I'm just excited to talk about why we started Sommet and everything that's been going on behind it.
Yeah, I guess I said it wrong. It's how do you
No,
pronounce it?
it's okay.
Sommet?
It's okay. Everyone, pretty much, it's so my buddy so my co-founder Parker Knight, he served his mission. So we're both members of the LDS Church, and he served his mission in Tahiti, speaking French.
Okay.
Um, and one day when we were trying to figure out, we're like, oh, we need a name for this. Um, we were just like kind of just saying like things that came to our mind, and we both love mountains. We both love mountain climbing, and he just said Sommet, and it kind of just rolled off the tongue and has 5 letters. It was like just like we were just imagining it. It was like perfect. Um, and so although our brand doesn't really have to do anything specifically with mountains, because Sommet in French means summit, um, we just thought it was like we loved it. It's like the perfect name, and so that's I guess that's how we just got our name. Just like kind of just spitting out words and seeing what
Yeah,
we liked.
that's a cool experience, and I'm excited to talk more about that journey and that process you've been on so far. But before we jump all the way into that, why don't you give me and the listeners a little bit of background on who you are, an intro to your family, and all that kind of stuff.
Sure. So, my full name. My name's Jude Zaugg, and my family's from San Francisco. My mom grew up there. My dad grew up all over the world, West Africa. His parents were in the Peace Corps, and his dad was a veterinarian in the army, and so he was all over in Mali and Panama and Guatemala and places like that. But then my parents met, and they eventually landed in San Francisco, and so that's where me and my 2 brothers were born. That's where we were raised for a little bit, and then when we were 5, we came out here to Utah for my dad's work, and we've been here ever since. We moved all over the valley, and um, which has led me to where I am now. I'm currently a student. I just finished my sophomore year at BYU, and I'm studying finance. So nothing crazy, and kind of the opposite of clothing. And like, I don't know, I feel like that creative realm, it feels kind of the opposite of that. Um, but what really got me into this is so for my entire life, I feel like I've been very anchored or just I feel like my life has always kind of in some way revolved around just the fashion industry and the fashion world. My parents for a long time had multiple clothing companies. They started Bench and Loom, the Phoenix Project, Draven and Carnahan. They became quite successful and they sold them. And so I just have all of these very specific memories, especially when we were living. We moved all over the valley, but we were living in Sandy one year, and in our basement, my parents had this big like white backdrop for like photo shoots and stuff, and all these mannequins, and then like a room where they'd fulfill all these orders. And I was pretty young, so I don't remember like a whole lot, but I always remember going down there and seeing the huge white backdrop, the mannequins, the clothes, and then like just like the area where they were fulfilling all their orders and stuff. And so, at the time, it didn't really mean a whole lot to me, but as I've grown older, and as people do, I feel like when you grow older and you're trying to figure out who you are, figure out your style, what you feel like works for you or what you feel comfortable and confident with. I feel like that's played a bigger role because I have been around it for my whole life. And um, I feel like I started to tap into all of that more and just recognize that my parents have a gift. And then um, just I don't know, it's helped me because of all of my parents. And I feel like it wasn't necessarily, they weren't like intentionally trying to get me into this world, but it was just, I think, a byproduct of, again, like of what they were doing. And I realized that I loved what they were doing. And so it just helped me recognize that I too, I think this does stem, I know it does stem from them. That it just helped me recognize that I too have a love for this stuff. And slowly but surely, through this love and through exploring this love, I was able to figure out what I like, what I feel confident in, and that I feel like I have a pretty good eye for all of these things, like a good eye for detail and a good eye for just what looks good, in my opinion.
Yeah, wow. That's fascinating stuff right there. I think what you said like in those formidable years of your life as a kid, while you said you don't remember a lot of it in detail, I think it's interesting that you were so young, but yet all these years later, you kind of look back and are like, yeah, that was like a big part of my journey
Mm,
that you've been on so far. Um, was there ever like, I guess, as you have been on this journey, what have you always been, like, really into clothes, like, your entire life? Have you always, like, been very, like, into wearing nice clothing? Have you always been into those types of things, or is that something that came up as you got older and matured, or how does that look like?
I think it started to come up as I think it started to come up as I got older. In fact, I know it did because it's like, oh, like clothes and stuff are cool. But I think where it really kicked off is in my sophomore year of high school. My buddy and I, one of my good buddies that I've grown up with, we realized so that you could resell sneakers, like limited edition sneakers, and make money on them. And so, like, oh, this is cool. And so we started slowly but surely. We taught ourselves how to use all these automation softwares, like servers, proxies, all of these things to kind of grow like a sneaker, like or back in it was called like that. It was called like hype beast stuff. And so, like slowly but sure, we grew like a little empire together. We taught ourselves how to do these things. We were up at like 3 in the morning on these websites getting these shoes that were selling out in like literally 5 seconds or like limited edition like clothes like Supreme and Bape and all that stuff that were selling out like, again like within seconds. And then you could resell them and make hundreds and thousands of dollars on these things. And so as I got into this world of reselling and seeing what everyone was wearing, what was popular and what was exclusive, I think it was the exclusivity of it all that
Mhm.
really like kind of drawn me into it. And I think that's what draws a lot of other people into it. It's because I feel like a lot of times we want what we can't have, or we want something that shows um I don't know, it's just exclusive that not everyone else has. And so that's why there was such a high market on these things. And I fell into that trap. Like I was the one helping create this market of exclusivity and driving the price up, but then I myself fell into it and like started wanting all these things that I was selling. Um, and so I feel like that's when I first started to really like clothes. And obviously, I've definitely changed styles since then, and I've definitely changed, like, my taste in clothes and all of that has changed drastically, but I think that was, like, the first real time, like, I started to kind of pinpoint what I liked and why I liked it, you know?
Yeah, I think that's a good, I guess, realization. I think a lot of people, at least in high school, kind of I know a couple people like you where they got into the big reselling and now they're into a
Yeah.
little bit different things. But I feel like that's a good gateway for a lot of people to get into, like, the fashion industry. Maybe not,
Mhm.
like, in big brand kind of ideas, but, like, into their own, like, niche and own styles. I think that it's such a yeah, just such an amazing thing. As you I guess, did you do that all through high school? Is that something you
Yeah,
did
did it all
for
through high school, and I ended up consulting for a local sneaker store and, like, helping build their website and all this stuff, so it just kept getting bigger and bigger, and then at the end of high school, I served an LDS mission in the Philippines. Like, I finished, and then it was honest I felt like to me, just, like, perfect timing because right when I finished after my senior year, Nike, Adidas, and all these guys started pumping out way too like, again, like, based on the people wanted these shoes because they were exclusive. They were expensive because they were exclusive, and people wanted what they couldn't have. But then Nike and Adidas, at the end of my senior year, they started pumping out crazy amounts of all these things, and, like, brands like Supreme and all these things, they just their quantity of inventory became way too high, and so it was super accessible, in my opinion, way too accessible, and it drove the prices way down. It kind of crashed the market and killed it all, and it's just become worse and worse over the years. Like, it's completely dead now for the most part. And so I just did it through high school, and then, like, right when I left, that's when everything kinda started going downhill, and I'm no longer doing it.
as you said you went from being, like, doing that in high school and stuff, and then you moved to going on a mission, and then you've came back. How did you reintegrate that? Was that something you, like, jumped right back into when you got home in a different capacity? Or what did that look like when you came back from the Philippines?
So when I came back from the Philippines, it was definitely not something I jumped right back into, like, it felt really, really good getting back to because a lot of the money that I spent, I was not good with my money in I was I spent all my money that I earned in high school on these things just on, like, clothes. Again, I fell into the trap that I was helping create. Just I spent all my money on clothes and shoes and stuff. And so, obviously, when I'm on my mission, I can't wear that. And so I kinda just had it stashed away for 2 years, and when I got back, it felt incredibly good to see like, just to be able to like, hold and touch these things again and wear them. And so, again, it just reminded me, like, how much I miss this stuff and how much I loved and still love clothes and the world of fashion, but, um, that was it. It was just nothing, like, crazy happened. There wasn't, like, any epiphany or anything. I was just reminded of how much I love this stuff.
That's great. Um, I guess you've always loved it. You, like, resold clothes and resold shoes. When did it shift where you said, "Hey, like, I really enjoy this stuff. I wanna try and make it myself?"
So, I think the first part was I've always, like, had this idea in my mind, like, my dream job would be to have my own, if you will, like, a fashion empire, like, that's the dream, you know? Um And then again, my co-founder and really great buddy, Parker Knight, um, we were just talking one day in the Marriott building, at BYU, and we were just saying, like, what if we actually start like our own clothing company? Like, what do we have to lose? We're young, we don't have a ton of crazy responsibilities. We have all these resources available to us. Like, why not go for it? Um, and so I think I was like, this will be a lot better working with someone I love and working with someone where we can combine our skills, because I think starting something alone is a lot scarier. Starting anything is hard and it's scary, but I think starting something alone is a lot scarier. And so starting with Parker gave me more confidence and gave me more just, I guess, wind in my sails and just more excitement. Um, and that's when kind of everything started to roll out.
Hmm, and when was that, I guess, like, in as far as, like, the timeline?
So it started that was about January of 2025.
Okay, so it's been about a year and a half since then.
Yeah, we've had a lot of ups and downs, and it's taken us a long time to get our first collection out, but, it kind of just took sh I guess it was born. I'd say it was born in January 2025.
Yeah. So you start with this idea, and where do you guys go next? Do you guys have this idea? Because I think a lot of people in life, they have, like, these ideas of things that they can do or things that they wanna accomplish. You guys had an idea. You started with, like, an idea of what you all guys wanted to do. What was, like,
Mhm.
I guess, the next big step that you guys took?
So, yeah, it was an idea, and then we had to figure out, like, what we wanted to sell or what we wanted to make, and so it was winter, and I think one of our first thought is like, what could we sell in the winter that would be cool that people like? Um, and so I guess just kind of stepping back a bit. We both really love mountaineering. We both love skiing. We're always up in the mountains. We're always up in the snow doing stuff like that. And so we always have all of this gear with us, all these clothes. And so I think that's where it stemmed from. Our first idea was a beanie, just like something super simple, because there's a lot of cool beanies out there. Um, and so we're like, okay, maybe like let's start with something small, not super expensive, something that is just cool and easy to make. And it was a lot harder to make than we actually thought. And again, all of these things are a lot harder than you always think. So we started in January. We started designing the beanie. We started going to look at fabrics. We started to reach out to people, meet with people, get advice, and ask what they would do. We started to kind of try to make like little ads or like little teasers for what we were creating. We'd never done this before, so we were kind of just shooting out in the dark to see what would work or what would stick, or just giving it our best effort. And we met with one of my buddies, Josh Edgar, who's owned a store, and so he doesn't own it anymore, but he owned a really cool clothing store in Salt Lake for a long time, and he hooked us up with his manufacturer in China, um, which was super kind of him and was great. But it was just we realized there was a lot of difficulties in manufacturing overseas when you don't have someone on the ground, and we've had multiple problems with that. But this was our first one, and there was a lot of problems. Like, I guess there was some language barriers, and there not things weren't turning out the way we were we'd hoped. And so we kind of just like lost steam and lost motivation. And slowly it kind of just like died. Like this idea at the beanie and Sommet, it was kind of just like neither of us were super excited about it. We were just hitting all these roadblocks, and it was just way harder than we thought. And so our motivation just went like completely down. And we kind of just stopped for a minute.
Dang. That seems like, I think, a common path that a lot of people will end. That's, like, the end of their story,
Mhm.
and, obviously, like, when you guys was over that process of time, what like, it sounds like you guys are just getting punched, like, you guys are in a boxing match and just can't get a punch back. You guys just getting punched again and again and
Yeah,
again.
that's what it felt like.
And it's tough when you have you feel like you're trying to do as much as you can, but you just keep getting hit and problem after problem occurs. How did you guys keep working through those problems to like keep your morale up? Obviously, you said you took a break, but what did that look like getting through that adversity?
So to be honest, we took that break and we both we never really like officially talked about it, but I think both of us in our heads were just kind of like, oh, this probably isn't going to go anywhere, like probably done. Um, but then one day Parker and I were in the library and he was talking to me. He was like, I really want like, do you want to go do a service trip with me this summer? And I was like, yeah, okay, that'd be cool. And so we were looking on this service website. Um, like, it's kind of like HXP. I'm not. I forgot the company name, but it's not HXP, but it's very similar. And we found a program that was in India, and we're like, oh, like we both love to go to India, and it was a good price, and so we talked about that, planned it out, and we're super excited. And then after we got everything planned for this trip to go help out teach English in schools in India, we realized we're like, wait a second, a lot of the clothes that we love and know are not only made in India, but they're inspired by Indian culture, Indian heritage, and all of these other things. And so, like, this could be, we're going to be there for like half the summer. This could be a really good opportunity to get things up and running again, kind of just like a clean slate and a fresh start. And so we went to Parker's apartment one day. We just had a brainstorming session, an idea. We just wrote down all of the brands that we love, what make the brands that we love them, like what stands out to us, and how we could create something similar that we love with the resources that we'd be given in India. And so we just had like a really, really, I think, just a wonderful, probably one of the best ones I've had in my life. Just a brainstorming session of what we love, why we love it, and how we could use India to our advantage while we're there. Or to start this up again. And that's kind of what got the ball rolling again. And if we didn't have this India trip, I don't think, to be honest, it would have got rolling again, maybe. It's kind of pessimistic to say, but I was just like, I think, well, again, like both of us in the heads were like, oh, I don't know if this will work out. But India really got like our trip to India, even though it wasn't specifically for Sommet or clothing, it really just got us excited again and got the ball rolling.
Wow, that's like such a like it's not like you guys like, "Oh, let's go to India to get the inspiration that we need to restart or get the get the have this brainstorming session even." It was just like, "Hey, do you wanna go do this thing?" And then off of
Mhm.
the back of that, it was like, "Oh, wait," like, a realization moment where you said, like, "Dang, this cool opportunity." Talk to me about some of your experiences while you were in India and while you were, I guess, experiencing the culture of India that has really inspired you guys' brand.
So there is India is so incredibly, I think it's one of the most beautiful countries on this earth. There is so much history, there is so much they're very proud of their heritage, and what I love is it's still a part of their daily life. Like, the beauty of the past and all of the things that made India what it is today is still very much alive in their culture and their way of life, which I think we both absolutely love. And so there's just so much beauty everywhere, and even just the smallest things like, benches, the palaces, the elephants, the way people dress the women in their beautiful saris, their anklets, their bracelets, their rings, their just everything. Everyone is so just proud of who they are, and everyone is just so engulfed in the Indian culture. It's wonderful to see because I feel like a lot of countries nowadays, um, aren't as tied to their culture, aren't as tied to their heritage as other places, and that's one thing that I love about India, and I think that's what was super inspiring to me is just, um how proud of it they are and how much of a role it plays in the day-to-day life of who they are.
Yeah, that's beautiful to think of how ingrained their, I guess, ancient history, some might say,
Mhm.
is in their daily life? Because I think more and more people are trying to modernize everything. I mean,
Yeah.
even if you go to Europe, while there's a lot of history there, I think it's just like people are more invested in what's happening now, and so some of those things from the past are put to the side and not valued as much. Um, when you guys started when you came back from India and you guys started working on the actual concepts for your guys' spring summer collection that you guys released just recently, what were the conversations like there?
So actually everything, most everything, starting and every design and the concepts and everything built was actually done in India on site because we had a lot of free time as well. It was the teaching that we did have, our program was very lenient and we had a lot of free time. And so that gave us a lot of exciting time to go and travel and see all of the wonderful things that India has to offer. And so while we were on the go, we got a lot of inspiration. And in our like with our Mughal jacket, like the Mughal frescoes and the palaces with all the flowers and the dusty like pastel colors inspired there. It's just like all of the things that we saw on our travels really just gave us these wonderful ideas on what we could create. And so we designed everything while we were there. And um, before we started designing stuff, like when we got there, when we got on the ground, and when we did have free time, like, okay, like what is the first thing that we need to do? Like in order to make clothes, what do we need? We need fabric. And India is incredibly famous for their fabric markets. And so it's just like that's where it all like that's where we started. So we're like, okay, we have some time this evening. Let's go to the fabric markets. And so we looked up the best fabric markets, the most famous ones, and went there. Um, and it was kind of overwhelming because there is so much to see, and so we got them like, where do we even start? And so we just started looking at all these fabrics, and then we started talking to people about what we wanted to do, asking if there was someone who could help us find, where we could manufacture, where we could even just talk to a manufacturer, get, an idea of what we needed to do. And we ended up eventually meeting these 2 gentlemen in their fabric store, and they told us they referred us, they said, okay, like, this is a good idea, you guys should go to the" we were in Delhi, that was our kinda, like, base. These 2 gentlemen were like, "Okay, you should go check out the industrial area of Delhi. That's where all the manufacturers are, that's where you can set up meetings, and that's where you can get kind of a head start on all of this." And so, like, okay, so that night we went home, and then, like, the next day or 2, we started looking up all these manufacturers and figuring out if we could set up meetings with them. We wrote them all down, we contacted them, we called them, we emailed them, and we set up meetings with a lot of them. And so in the next week, we were able to go out to the industrial area, me and Parker. We started meeting with these guys, and a lot of them we realized were not able to meet our needs because we were starting out so small and we wanted hand sewn stuff. And these guys are just they have super high like minimum orders. Nothing's really hand done. It's all by machine, and it was pretty expensive. And so we're like, okay, this isn't looking too great. Like, where do we go from here? So we were feeling a little deflated again. We're like, oh, this is again way more difficult than we thought. And so I remember after one meeting, we were both just standing there. Just we were the only foreigners, and kind of the industrial area of Delhi's like not the greatest part of town. And so we were just standing there all alone, just like figuring out like, okay, like what could we do next? And because we both serve missions, we are pretty comfortable just going door to door and knocking on doors. It's like, okay, there's a ton, like this is where all the manufacturers are. Let's just start walking because they were literally just like they're all neighbors with each other just for like miles. And so we just started going on in like we just started walking through like the entrances of these big manufacturing buildings, trying to talk to people. We're like, can we talk to someone here? Like, we'd love to talk with you guys about manufacturing and using you guys to produce our clothes. And a lot of them were like, no, for whatever reason, they're like, no. Like they were scared. They're like, no, 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 you can't come in here. Um, and so we just again we had a ton of failure there, and then we were just walking home, trying to walk home or try to go back to the train and get a tuk-tuk. And we're like, "Okay, what can we do?" And then we ended up walking past the India Institute of Design, which was really cool. And we were looking at it and we're like, "Okay, they probably like there's gotta be people in there that can help us get to where we want or get a foothold here." And so we walked up to the entrance to the security guard and we started talking to him. And he didn't speak much English. And we kind of started talking to him. And then one of the professors walked out. She was an Indian woman who studied in England and was super nice, had great English. And we told her what we wanted to do. And she's like, yeah, I can connect you with one of my colleagues right now. Like, this is perfect. And it was all just like a perfect storm. And so she called him up and we're like, okay, like he can meet with you right now. He has some free time. And they let us into the Institute of Design. We sat down with this guy, Mr. Abhishek, and he sat us down and we talked to him. We told him what we wanted to do, and then he gave us. He was super super kind, super generous, and gave us 2 contacts. One at Vogue India, and then another one, um, who it's this. She was a small boutique seamstress who had a little team who did everything by hand. Like, this is perfect. Like, we have like the highest you can go, like Vogue India, and then something super local, something super just um, yeah, it was just we had, like, the best of both worlds, and so we set up meetings with them, and, the woman at Vogue, was incredible, super kind, but it was way out of our budget, as you can imagine with Vogue, like, it was way, way, way out of our budget, and so we're like, "This is really great, but we probably can't afford this," and so then we met with the other seamstress who had her own teeny little local shop, did everything by hand, and worked with, like, 3 other guys on her team, and it seemed, like, perfect. It was absolutely perfect. We met with her, we took her out to lunch, we went to her studio, she showed us all that she was capable of, all of the work that she's done. Um, we talked to her about creating samples. Parker and I, we designed the clothes while we were there. We made tech packs, gave her the tech packs, we told her what we wanted, and she's like, "Yeah, I can do this, totally." And, so we signed a little agreement with her, and she told us, she's like, "Okay, like, I'll start making your samples." Um, and then it kinda just everything that's where everything started. It's like it all started while we were in India.
Yeah, wow. That's an adventure. It sounds like going through it. And while you're talking, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the story of Phil Knight and his book Shoe Dog. But a lot of the things that you're saying and sharing is very reminiscent of his experience. I'm not his a I guess a brief idea of what his story is he had this dream idea of importing Japanese shoes to the US because it had been very successful in the early 60s with the cameras and TVs and electronics. And
Mhm.
so he went after grad school to Japan and signed a deal with what is now Asics and was importing shoes and then just had a lot of ups and downs, just like you guys, trying to find manufacturers throughout the process of when after he stopped selling shoes for what is now Asics, he started making his own shoes and trying to find a manufacturer in Taiwan, in Mexico, and even in the States when like his first couple of stories. So it's very reminiscent of where he came from and where Nike came from. So I think that's such an amazing story of just, I mean, when you're trying to do something as big as you guys are, I guess as complex, you have a lot of people who will do it for really, really cheap, but not to the quality I'm assuming you
Yeah.
guys desire. And then you have people who are willing to do it to the quality like Vogue, but not in the price range that's necessarily feasible for a startup as
Mhm.
yourselves. And so I think it's such an amazing thing to be able to work with that lady who had her own little shop and her little boutique and small team of 4 to start your guys' first samples. And so did you guys work with her and did she make all your samples? And then
Actually, again, there was a lot more ups and downs with even with her, like, we thought, "Okay, like, this is perfect, like, everything would be great." Um, we left India, our samples weren't done, she's like, "Yeah, I'll send them to you, like, when they're done." And then, like, 3 months went by, and we were just, like, little by little, we lost contact with her, and she just completely dropped off the map. We didn't hear anything from her, we're like, "Oh my gosh," like, it's like a worst case scenario. Like, and luckily we didn't pay her a lot, like, it was just half and it was only for our samples, so we just were like, we just gotta cut our losses and find someone new, otherwise this isn't gonna go anywhere." And again, this is another problem that we found of trying to manufacture overseas without someone on the ground to help keep everything in order and everything going. And so it's been a big learning process, but, again, we lost so much steam and we lost motivation. We're like, "Oh, everything was perfect, everything lined up great," like, we ended up meeting with Vogue and, like, how could it just all kind of crash again? So we lost steam for a little while, and over the next couple months, like little by little, like we have to find someone local that could do this for us. And manufacturing in America is way more expensive than anything overseas, especially in India. And so, and like all these big manufacturing plants in America, they have high like minimum orders, and nothing's really done by hand. And so we're just like, oh my gosh, this is like happening all over again. Like, are we ever going to get this started? And then one day I had a friend. I put it up on my story. I put a lot of stuff up on my story on Instagram, just asking around, like, oh, does anyone know someone that could do embroidery or like a seamstress? And for whatever reason, one day, one of my friends responded to me in my story. He's like, "Oh, I know this great like seamstress that does a ton of work for this cool brand, and I can connect you with her." And I was like, "Oh, that'd be great." Turns out she lives like 5 minutes from my house down in Salt Lake, and she's incredible. Like she does incredible work. She does it all by hand. She's been doing this for years and years and years. She loves it. She embroiders by hand. Like she's incredible, and so it was a huge blessing. We met with her, talked about what we wanted to do, showed her our designs. She's like, "Yeah, I can totally do this." Actually, okay, take a step back. I already forgot a part. There was another. I'm fast forwarding to the end. It's a good part. I forgot another problem that we had. We found another. Our friend referred us to a seamstress in Provo, around our age, and so we told her what we wanted to do. She helped get us our fabric, and then she made our first three samples, our jacket and our two shirts by hand. Um, and they were good. They were great. It took a while though, and it ended up being pretty expensive, way more expensive than we thought. Um, so we were like, I don't know if this is gonna work out. Like this is really expensive. Um, and then we needed embroidery done on our jacket and on one of our shirts, and she couldn't do that. And so
Hmm.
again, it's another problem. We're like, oh my gosh, now we got to find someone to do embroidery. But then again, fast forward, found this wonderful woman that I was referred to this wonderful woman in Renee, who's our seamstress now, like 5 minutes from my house, and she's been able to do everything for us, and it's been incredible. So we're working with her now. But again, it's just been a long, steady series of lots of ups and downs.
Yeah, that's the common theme I think I've seen as you've outlined beautifully the story and like the experiences that you and Parker have been through. I guess for yourself, as you've been through this whole process of trying to find out how to start this thing, what's been the biggest lesson that you've learned
I
through this
think
whole process?
I think a big theme for me, or like one of the biggest things that's really helped me through this and been really re-solidified in my life is I really believe that even if you don't know exactly where you're going or how you're going to accomplish what you want to or what you may set out to do, you just have to keep moving. That even if you have no idea where you're walking, if it feels like you're walking blindly, you have to be walking because nothing's going to happen if you're not doing anything, If you're just in a standstill, if you're just stuck, if you're not doing it, like nothing's going to happen. And so you at least have to be walking. You have to be putting one foot in front of the other, and then eventually through hard work and through faith, know that God will guide you and help you and help get you to where you need to be. You just have to be moving. And so I think that was something that I that was a big theme for me on my mission. It was something that was really re-solidified for me in this experience. That just you have to keep going no matter what.
Yeah, I think that's an amazing sentiment. I think that's a common theme I've seen among a lot of the people that I've talked to recently.
Mhm.
That I've asked them similar questions to this about like the biggest lessons that they've learned as they've gone through different things that they were passionate about or building or things like that. And I think the common theme is just like if you stop walking, you will fail. Like
Yeah.
it won't go forward because you're not acting. And I think in your case, it's very unique because you had the opportunity to work with another person and have someone to kind of light that fire underneath you when you weren't feeling it, and you did the same for him. It sounds like.
Mhm.
What would you say to that? Being able to work with a team or work with another person in a project that means so much to you.
Well, in a project that means so much to me, I think it's important to work with someone that means a lot to me. And Parker means a great deal to me. He's probably one of my best friends ever. Like I really love him, and so having him just again, like you wouldn't want to do this with anyone that you don't love because this is something that means so much to you. I obviously think that you'd want to include someone or work with someone that means an equal amount to you, or if not more, because you're also not doing it only for yourself, but doing it for them. because it helps me you be more accountable, you know? Like, if you're by yourself, I feel like it's easier to just be like, "Oh, like, yeah, I'm done." Like, because it's not affecting anyone else, but if you're working with someone you care about and you love, for me, it helps me be more accountable, and it helps me realize that my choices not only affect me, but also him, and so, I think that's something that's been super helpful for me and just staying afloat and keeping wind in my sails.
Yeah, that's great. And I guess, like, one final question before I get to, like, I think I have 2 final questions. Pursuing something this big, you kind of talked about it earlier when you said that, um, you're so young, you have little to lose. What would you say to being in your 20s and dreaming big? And it seems like you've always kind of been pursuing dreams of some sort, whether it be your shoe business when you were in high school, or going on these trips to India, or traveling wherever, and or building Sommet. What would you say to, like, just following your dreams? And because I think it's a thing that often people don't do out of fear. What would you say?
I think the biggest thing is, again, my sentiment at this stage in life is obviously we all have responsibilities. We all have things that we need to get done. We have people we care about. Our choices that not don't never seldom only affect us. And so that's obviously something to take into account. But I think at this age with this little responsibility, and I mean this little responsibility, like we're not taking care of, at least in my stage, like it's just me. Like I don't have a family I'm taking care of. I don't have like a mortgage I'm paying and stuff like that. It's like I can afford to fail. And I feel like failure has been the greatest teacher. And if you, long as you like, when you use these experiences, when you use these failures to grow and to learn, and rather than being afraid of failure, rather than being afraid of what ifs, using them as I just I think again, kind of on a different topic. What I think the biggest thing here, and I think the biggest thing that people are afraid of are what ifs. Like, what if I fail? What if it goes wrong? Like, you know. But there's also the other end of the spectrum on what ifs. Like, one of my one of the, something that someone that's helped me a lot in my life is Marcus Aurelius. There's a book that I love that has been made a huge like next to the scriptures. It's had like the biggest impact in my life. It's called Meditations.
Yep.
And there's something that he said. Have you read it?
Yeah.
It's so incredible. It is like
Yeah.
the most
It is.
incredible book ever. Um, but something that I love that he says is in what ifs and in everything there's a good and a bad. So rather than imagining what if it fails or what if like this just crashes and burns, why not imagine the best case scenario? Like what if this succeeds? Like what if this takes off and I am able to accomplish these things? Um, I think living by what ifs and it's just completely again, it's a lot easier said than done, but I feel like it's very, very restricting, especially when our minds tend to go to the what ifs of failure, like worst case scenario of catastrophic events. And so I just think being able to switch your mindset to like, what if I do succeed? Like, what if this does take off? And just being unafraid of the unknown and wanting to see over these walls of what ifs is what is incredibly powerful. And again, it's a skill that takes, I feel like, lots and lots of it's something I'm nowhere near perfect at, but I feel like over time and through these experiences and through practice is something that's really, really helped me just trying to be unafraid of those what ifs and turning those what ifs into what if I do succeed? What if this does go well, you know? And so I think that's something that's really helped me in pursuing this as a dream. Um, and just being unafraid of potential failures.
Yeah, it's interesting you bring that up. So yesterday, actually, a friend of mine, he writes a lot, and so he posts things on Instagram, and he had something that I read last night that really is just along the lines of exactly what you just said. His name's JJ. He's really awesome. It's what he wrote and what he posted was, "What if it doesn't work out? Well, what if it does? What if you go out and accomplish everything you said you were going to? You buy the car, build the business, marry the girl, raise the family, travel the world. You'll have the uh, you'll have the beautiful opportunity to love, lose, laugh, cry, and do so in the name of chasing something real, something that only you might see in the vision of, but it's yours and that's what matters." And then he includes a quote that says, "You have two lives. The second one starts when you realize you only have one. Don't let the dream die."
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is an incredible quote.
Yeah. I think to that what you just said is that quote kind of sums it up both ways. You have 2 lives, and the second one starts when you realize you only have 1. It's
Yeah.
kind of it's a lot to unpack, but when you really think about it in depth, it's quite profound. Before we get to the final question, my second to last question for you is what's coming next for Sommet?
Okay, and I'm happy to answer that. Just I'd like to add on to one more thing you just said. There's another quote that
Okay.
just came to mind by Jack London that I absolutely love. It's kinda just like talking about it's like actually living rather than just being here, and it says, "I would rather be ashes than dust. I would rather that my spark should burn out in a brilliant blaze than it should be stifled by dry rot. I would rather be a superb meteor, every atom of me in magnificent glow, than a sleepy, impermanent planet. The function of man is to live, not to exist. I shall not waste my days trying to prolong them. I shall use my time." And again, it's just the idea of living rather than existing. We've all been given, I feel like I know that we've all been given these God given gifts, talents, and unique abilities. And to be unafraid to use them or to utilize them or to recognize what they are is you're stifling these things. And it's rather than living, you're just simply existing. And so to that end, like I would rather be ashes, like burning in a bright flame, going out that way than just being dust, never doing anything, just sitting there, you know? Um, and so I think it's just, yeah, being unafraid to live, you know?
Yeah, that's beautiful. I think that's very well said. You said that was by Jack London?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll have to look more into that. That was a beautiful quote. But yeah, what's next with Sommet? What's the vision for the future look like?
So right now right now what we're doing is we closed our pre-orders, and we're just working on fulfilling all the orders that we received right now. We ordered all the fabric and we're just waiting for it to come. And then we're working with Renee she's going to help us make them. And then we're going to ship them out within hopefully like next week or two. And then after that, Parker and I have to work on figuring out because we have this character, like it follows the travels of our Sommet follows the travels of the character created, Jacques Saint Pierre. Like each collection is inspired by or based off his travels or where he goes. And so Parker and I have to work on where we're going to next and figuring out how we're going to fund it and every stuff like that. I think the biggest priority is just figuring out where do we want our next collection to be based off or inspired by.
Yeah, that's amazing, and I'll be super excited. I'm sure all those other people that are supporting you are gonna be really excited to see what comes next.
Thanks.
Um, if someone wanted to support you and show some love to what you guys are doing, where could they find you guys?
So just on Instagram, we are le dot sommet sommet.co on Instagram, and then our website is just sommet store.com. So yeah, if you guys want to show support, we'd love just a follow. That'd be great.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. My final question for you is kind of probably similar answer to what you've been talking about, but if there's someone listening to this right now and they have a dream that they want to pursue or some sort of hobby, passion, whatever it may be that they want to pursue, what would your advice be to that person?
Again, I think the biggest thing that I was just like to reiterate what I was talking about earlier, and just a big theme in my life right now is something that I'm really working is just don't live by what ifs. If you're always afraid for the future, if you're always um, regretting or reminiscing on the past and past mistakes, it makes the present, which is a beautiful, beautiful, and colorful gift that we all get to live every day. It just makes it just makes life dreary, and it just makes life, I honestly think, just mundane and sad. And so, living on what ifs, living on, oh, what if I did this in the past? What if I had done this differently, or in the future? Oh, what if this happens? Like I just think it completely destroys the peace and the beauty of the present. And it makes people scared to move forward, to make that next step, or just, yeah, just to do anything. I feel like it completely takes the wind out of anyone's sails. And so I think the biggest thing is just do not live by what ifs. Just figure out and recognize, take time to be grateful for what you do have and to account for what is going on in your life, to recognize all of the wonderful things that are happening, not what if happened, but that are happening in the present, and how you can use these things, these gifts, these talents, these blessings to your advantage to make the future that you want for yourself.
Thank you very much, Jude. That's very sound and amazing advice that you've given. I'd just like to show, first of all, my appreciation for your willingness to come on, and also an appreciation just for all the great things that you shared with me today and with the listeners. I think what you're doing is really, really cool. I think it's very obvious to me that you love it, and it's something that you put a lot of thought into and are working very hard on. And so for that, I will be ever grateful for what you've shared with me today. And I will be here to support you in whatever you do. So thank you so much for coming on to the Passion Lab. And yeah,
Well, thank you, Jacob. I really appreciate you. I also really admire and I'm super grateful for what you're doing. Just because I feel like everyone has passions, but again, not everyone realizes them or is able to talk about them. And I think what you're doing, helping people see other people's passions and why they're doing what they're doing, how they're doing what they're doing is incredibly valuable and adds a lot of meaning, can add a lot of meaning into people's lives. And so I really respect and admire what you're doing as well. I'm super grateful for it. And I'm also here to help and support you always in any way I can. And I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you're busy with finals and stuff, so I appreciate you taking the time to just chat today and just for letting me on your show to talk about something I love and I'm passionate about. So thanks, Jacob. I really appreciate it.
yeah, this has been episode 7 of the Passion Lab, and we will see you in the next episode.